Previously on Forbidden Locations, you escaped a sinking island, crashed in an arid desert, and escaped a platform made from lightning rods in the sky. Now, your rocket is low on fuel, and you hope to make a pit stop on an abandoned spaceport on a remote moon. You soon realize that this is no quick trip. The spaceport is completely overgrown with jungle and is infested with a colony of spider-like aliens that want you gone. Whole sections of the spaceport begin collapsing into sinkholes, and you finally conclude that you are extremely unlucky. Your only hope of escape is to put a transportation portal back in service and cross your fingers that it takes you somewhere much more pleasant. Hey everyone, my name is Lara, and in this video, I'm going to be breaking down everything you need to know about Forbidden Jungle from Gamewright to help you decide if it's worth your investment. I'll cover the turn summary, rules, target audience, comparisons, and the estimated time commitment. Also, since this is the fourth game in the Forbidden series from designer Matt Leacock, I'll explain how it differs from Forbidden Island, Desert, and Sky. But first, let's get started with the game objective. Forbidden Jungle is a cooperative game for 2 to 5 players, meaning all players win or lose as a team. The cool thing about these Forbidden games is that they all pick up where the previous game left off. In Forbidden Island, you escape a sinking island in a helicopter, which crashes in a desert, kicking off the events of Forbidden Desert. In that game, your thirsty team assembles a steampunk flying machine so you can fly off to the nearest Sonic for a refreshing cherry limeade. Except somebody must have taken a wrong turn at Albuquerque, and you end up on a mysterious platform thousands of feet up in the sky. Forbidden Sky. There, you escape by powering up a rocket ship, which then, predictably, runs out of fuel. The rocket's guidance system directs you to an abandoned spaceport on a remote moon, which is overgrown with jungle. Forbidden Jungle. It certainly falls into the forbidden territory because pieces of the spaceport are dropping into sinkholes. Oh, and the jungle is infested with a colony of spider-like aliens. To win, your team must hold off the angry spiders, find 4 power-generating crystals, and arrange them around the sides of a transportation portal to put it back in service. Cross your fingers that the portal takes you somewhere a little less forbidden. Maybe the sequel could shake things up, and you step through the portal and arrive in the welcoming meadow. Like many cooperative games, there's only one way to win Forbidden Jungle, but many ways to lose. 5 ways, to be exact. Being overrun with spiders, a total collapse of the spaceport, the death of a single adventurer by poisoning, the death of a single adventurer by falling into a bottomless sinkhole, and of course, being marooned with no means of escape. You know, the standard fare. In his designer diary for Forbidden Jungle, Matt Leacock mentions that in addition to new challenges, he included elements of each of the previous games here. As I go through this breakdown, I'll point out these features. If you've played any of the Forbidden games, the grid of double-sided tiles will be familiar to you. This is your board, where the action of the game takes place. The configuration in the rulebook shows you where to place a few key tiles, like the crystals and Fool's Landing, but all the other tiles that contain various machines, helpful gear, and other features are shuffled and randomly placed according to the diagram, thus creating the need for exploration. This is similar to what you're doing in Forbidden Desert, flipping tiles in search of the parts necessary to build your flying machine. The configurations also show the initial placement of the 3 stages of the spider alien things, eggs, hatchlings, and adults. For your first game, you'll use the standard setup. However, the game includes several options for the layout of the spaceport, each of which adjusts the difficulty. The game's flow follows the cooperative formula popularized by Matt Leacock in a little-known game called Pandemic. Just kidding, it's a lot-of-known game. Each player gets a role with a special ability that will come in clutch, as the kids say, in certain situations. On your turn, you may take up to 4 actions, such as moving, removing an alien, exploring, or operating a machine. After your action, the game fights back. Here, you draw as many cards from the threat deck as the threat meter indicates. All of the cards in this deck are bad and do things like spawning and hatching eggs, growing hatchlings into adults, moving hatchlings and adults, and spinning webs on tiles with adults. Webs block movement between tiles for adventurers, but not the aliens. You'll also come across the Collapse card, which forces you to remove the lowest numbered explored tile from the game. Any adventurers on that tile must move to an adjacent tile if there is one. If not, they'll be lost in a sinkhole. The team will lose. And shun the lost player for the remainder of the game night. This is similar to what happens in Forbidden Island. The playing area shrinks as it is consumed by the briny deep. The last type of card in the threat deck is the Increase Threat card, which, surprisingly, increases the threat level every time it's drawn. One version of the card instructs you to reshuffle the discard pile, so there's a constant flow of awfulness cycling through the game. If the meter ever gets all the way up to threat level midnight, you experience a total collapse and lose the game. As mentioned earlier, to win, you must align powered-on crystals along the 4 edges of a portal, ensure that there are no aliens on the portal tile, and have all adventurers on that tile. This is a challenge akin to powering up the rocket in Forbidden Sky. In this instance, you'll use one of the machines called the Configurator to shift tiles around, so you're essentially trying to solve a slide puzzle before the necessary tiles collapse into the abyss forever. Though there are 6 crystal tiles, only 4 have power. If just one of those are removed, you cannot win the game. Something fresh in this game is the addition of an antagonist who is actively out to get you. Adult spiders sting, and each adventurer has a limited amount of stings they can take before they die. The alien spiders in their various forms add another layer to this forbidden cake. Forbidden cake? Really? Who wrote this?
Wasn't me.
Sure, yeah. You should know that with the randomized tiles, you could very easily end up with a board state that makes it nearly impossible to win. If you flip over a powered crystal tile early on and you draw the threat card that tells you to remove a tile, the chances are good that you'll have to collapse the very thing needed to win the game. In that instance, you may want to wait a few rounds before you go flipping over crystal tiles. You may also end up with the critical machines all the way at one end of the playing area, or clustered together. It's part of the challenge of the game, but something I thought was worth mentioning. Forbidden Island burst onto the scene in 2010 and has remained a solid choice for anyone looking for an entry point into the world of cooperative board games. Each of the sequels continued adding new challenges while generally remaining accessible to most. None of the Forbidden games require that you play previous games in the series, so you can jump in at any point, including here with Jungle. I'd argue that Matt Leacock is one of the kings of co-ops, except that you can't have more than one king, so I won't argue that. Having said that, if you like any of his other games like Pandemic and its 10+ versions, Mole Rats in Space, or the already mentioned Forbidden games, you will likely enjoy Forbidden Jungle. It's also very comparable to general audience cooperative games like Horrified, Flashpoint Fire Rescue, and Dead Men Tell No Tales. With that in mind, these are the types of co-op games that, while cooperative in theory, can easily be hijacked by an aggressive player. Discussion is encouraged, and each player's decision is ultimately left up to themselves, but one player could just begin telling everyone else what to do and coerce them into doing it. In fact, you could technically play games like Forbidden Jungle by yourself, even though the rules don't suggest that. There's no hidden information between players or anything requiring separate input from multiple players. If you don't typically enjoy games like that, then Forbidden Jungle probably isn't going to change your mind. On the other hand, this is a game that many different types of players will enjoy. It has mass market appeal, so you'll find it in the big stores on the shelves alongside its siblings. However, you won't find it at a better price than at GameNerds.com. If you've owned every game in the series so far, there's no reason not to own this one. Each Forbidden game adds something unique to the formula, both mechanically and thematically, so you can totally own and enjoy all 4. This is absolutely a family-friendly game, and while the suggested age range is 10 and up, that could probably be adjusted down to 7 or 8 as long as there's an older adult to help out. That doesn't mean it's only for families or newer gamers. I've been playing board games for years, and I thoroughly enjoy this fresh challenge. And it can be challenging, but thankfully, if you don't like impossible games, you can adjust the difficulty level with those spaceport configuration cards. Lastly, I don't recommend it for people made of tin, because every time you play, you'll be reminded of what it costs to manufacture the box. The final thing I want to cover is the time commitment. You'll spend 2.5 to 3 minutes setting up the game and about 2 to 3 minutes for a first-time rules explanation. Turn length can vary anywhere from 30 seconds to a minute. A full game can last 45 minutes, but that's dependent on how easily you lose. All in all, you can expect to spend an hour of your time to set up, teach, play, and put away Forbidden Jungle. Forbidden Jungle is another entry in the series that offers an easy on-ramp to the world of cooperative hobby games. It adds fresh elements and strategic components while still staying true to its proven formula. With a relatively short time commitment and the ability to adjust the difficulty level, it's a game that can appeal to a wide range of players. If Forbidden Jungle checks all the boxes in your purchasing criteria, you can find it and the other games in the series over at GameNerds.com. If you found this video helpful in making a purchasing decision, consider giving it a like. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel for other breakdowns, unboxings, tutorials, and more. Finally, feel free to leave me a comment if you have any questions about Forbidden Jungle, or tell me where you'd love to see the series go next. But you can't say Welcoming Meadow, that's mine. Once again, my name is Lara, and I want to thank you for watching this video. Bye-bye.